Hey guys, LevelCap here. Today we're going to be covering some of the basics of tanking in Heroes and Generals. We'll talk about light tanks, medium tanks, heavy tanks, when to use them, where to use them, and also how to become a tanker. Now starting off, tanking can be a little bit daunting. I mean, trying to figure out how to become a tanker can be a little bit daunting. The user interface is not the most inviting aspect of this game, but I can tell you that you need to hit at least rank 5 with an infantryman to convert them over to a tanker. So don't think that just because you just downloaded the game you'll be able to hop into a tank right off the bat. You're actually going to have to play for quite a while before you have enough experience to convert to a tank crewman. And that being said, I wouldn't advise converting your infantryman to a tanker unless you have another infantryman as backup. If all the tanks get wiped out in a round, you're not going to be able to spawn back in as an infantry unless you have another infantry soldier to pick from. You can buy a secondary soldier using in-game credits, or you can even use the in-game money that you use real cash to get. So basically you have the option of using your free-to-play credits to get anything in this game. It will take you a lot longer, or you can use real cash to buy it all instantaneously. Once you have your tank crewman, you will get the basic light tank. For the Americans, that is the M2A2 light tank. It's what I'm using in this clip here, and it's pretty good. It doesn't have any sort of heavy weapons on it, so you can't really combat heavier armor with it, but it is excellent for taking out infantry. It's actually got 2 turrets on top of it, so your secondary gunner can pretty much clear anything on the right side of your tank. However, it means that your main turret can't actually turn that far to the right. It's kind of a funny little setup, and you have to turn the body of your tank sometimes to hit certain angles. Now your tank crewman gets a basic SMG in case you need to pop out of your tank if it takes too much damage, it's on fire, it's about to die. You can pop out and use your little SMG to take out enemies, but you don't get a repair tool by default. You actually have to upgrade your crewman and unlock a repair tool over time. And once you have that, then you can actually back out of combat, repair your tank, and get back in the fight. Now, as you can see from my armor indicator in the lower left hand, I have taken a bunch of rocket shots and I am hurting quite a bit. There's a lot of things that infantry have that can take you out. And this is good to know both if you're a tanker or if you're an infantry trying to take out tanks. There's landmines, there's anti-tank grenades, and then there's bazookas or Panzerschrecks or whatever kind of rocket launcher your faction has. Without question, infantry are one of your biggest threats in this game simply because your mobility and your visibility in a tank is not what you might expect if you're used to playing games like Battlefield. If you want a third-person view in your tank, you literally have to stick your head out the hatch of your tank and look around. This leaves you incredibly exposed to snipers and pretty much anybody with a gun that's nearby. The small turret window and then your even smaller scope sight can give you quite a case of tunnel vision, and you will have to keep your ears open for infantry maybe sneaking up behind you or the sounds of grenades or landmines being placed. Without question, cities can be some of the most dangerous spots for tanks, but it can also be some of the best places to get a ton of kills. We're going to switch over here to a different light tank, and you'll see the third-person view as I have my head sticking out the hatch. I'm back in my spawn area, so it's a safer area to be looking out of the tank, but once you get closer into combat, you really want to pop back in your turret and stay safe. It's not too dangerous to stick your head out of the turret just for a second or two if you need to see what you might be stuck on in the environment, but other than that, I wouldn't stick my head out any longer than that when in combat. Here I'm engaging in a light armored tank battle with my M5A1 Stuart. One tip to try and deflect some of the incoming rounds is to angle your tank ever so slightly. You don't want to give them a straight on target, like a flat target, the exact front of your tank or the exact side of your tank. Give them sort of an angled shot. You have a higher chance of shots being deflected. The 3 little icons at the bottom of your screen will show you the angle of your turret relative to your tank body. It'll also show you what kind of rounds you have available. Hitting 1 or 3 on the keyboard switches between the 2 weapons that I have selected down there. And fun fact about the machine gun is you have to actually shoot all of your ammunition from 1 belt of ammo before you can reload it. So sometimes if you think you're about to go into a massive combat area and you don't have too many rounds left over, just shoot off the rest of your rounds and reload that machine gun. It might serve you better in the long run. And currently I'm making my way down a populated road towards the combat area, and roads can be a little dangerous. Take them at your own risk because they are a popular location for landmines. Soldiers have been trying to sneak up behind me all this game with RPGs and stuff and take me out. And while I'm being totally distracted by all the hostiles right in front of me, I don't notice the soldier sneaking up behind me. He places a fairly large landmine, and since I'm not moving, I imagine he detonated it or somebody else detonated it with an explosive. So that's something else you gotta watch out for, and a danger of sitting still for too long. It is hard to aim while moving in this game, but sometimes you really just gotta sit still to get those precision shots at range. I just didn't think somebody had gotten all the way behind me. Flanking is really the name of the game when it comes to taking out tanks if you're in infantry. Now, I really like light tank combat. Here is some heavy tank combat using the M18 Hellcat, and this thing, for the driver anyway, only has a primary cannon that is a tank round. This is designed to take out other tanks. When you don't have other tanks and you have lots of infantry threats, it's not really the most ideal vehicle to have. In Heroes and Generals, there is a distinct possibility that you could have a tank designed to take out other tanks and never see another piece of armor on the battlefield, or at least not heavy armor, so the weapon of choice doesn't make a huge amount of sense. Having more armor is always nice, but you're still very susceptible to the classic anti-tank weapons, anti-tank grenades, Panzerschrecks, tank mines, all of that stuff will still do you in just fine. Now, coming across these bridges can be tricky. I've positioned myself in a place that is pretty susceptible on the hopes that my infantry will come and try and cross the bridge and back me up. Just like in Battlefield, you need a lot of infantry support to be good as a tanker. If you're the distraction, then your infantry can succeed in taking out the enemy, and likewise, if the infantry is the distraction, you can wreck them from afar with the tank. And although it looks like that AA cannon did hurt my armor a little bit, it's not really something I would advise taking on a tank with. Now, if you've played Heroes and Generals before, you'll know that the time of day on maps you've played can change. So you might play one map at day, it plays one way, you play it again at nighttime, and it feels totally different. Here we kind of have a nighttime foggy map. I'm using some medium armor here, and this was actually a lot of fun because it was a lot of scanning through the mist to try and see targets at range. And the visual effects look awesome when you see the silhouette of some armor in front of an explosion in the distance. Now, you should be able to adjust the zero of your optic with the spacebar, I believe, but I never really found the need for that. Most of the targets I was engaging, even the ones really far away or hard to see, I could pretty much aim directly at. There was no situation where I had to adjust for range with this tank. Maybe I haven't engaged in far enough away tank battles, but for the most part, the shots were flying straight. Now, without question, there's situations where tanks just absolutely wreck, and you're thinking, man, do I have a huge advantage over other infantry on the battlefield. And in a way, Heroes and Generals is trying to design the game around that. There are a limited number of tanks you can spawn in each round. If the enemy kills all of them, then you either have to quit the game or spawn in as an infantry soldier if you actually have an infantry soldier as backup. That being said, there were games I played where the enemy was ready for me, and I was really just going one for one in a tank. Infantry would sneak up behind me, a group of them would take me out with Panzerschrecks. Until you've played a tank, you don't really understand how limited you feel with the mobility and your visibility. It can be a little bit daunting and a little claustrophobic. You could be out on a giant field and have no idea what's behind or around you because it's going to take you a while to find out by rotating that turret. That being said, the experience feels very authentic, and once you get in a situation where you are set up to do some serious damage, it is hugely rewarding. I highly recommend trying out tanking if you have the means to in Heroes and Generals. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap signing off.